Hi folks, Ricky Tang here, and you find me today out on my KTM 390 adventure. So my plan for today was just to get enough miles on the bike to take me right up to the first service mileage, which is 600 miles. So by the time I get home I'll be up to about 580, something like that, 590, that'll do. But while I'm here I thought I'd tell you a bit about my bike and what I found over the first 500 miles or so, well, first 600 by the time I get home. You have to bear in mind that I'm still running the bike in, so at about 6,500 RPM the rev counter, the tacho, starts flashing and encourages me to shift up a gear or slow down. What do I think of the bike? Well, it's a big single, or relatively big single, 373cc. So it's never smooth, and you can't really expect it to be smooth. It always feels a bit busy. Even fizzy might be a good way of putting it. And there's a slightly annoying kind of resonant point in the revs, and around about 4,000 RPM, where it tends to make everything vibrate a little bit more. You know, legs, bum, hands, arms, teeth. Everything just feels a little bit fizzy at those revs, so I try to avoid those revs. But the engine's young, and so that might change as more miles go on the bike. In terms of performance, it promises a lot. I can't wait to get this bike serviced so I can actually play with it some more. It doesn't like much pulling below, well, 3,000 RPM in anything but first gear really. Between 3 and 5 you open up the throttle and the response is just a little soft, but then it picks up quickly. It's not a bad performer, but what I really like and what's really promising is from the 5,000 RPM mark, the throttle response is really good. But then at the moment I get to 6,500 RPM and you know, you start having a flashing screen and mechanical sympathy takes over, and then I change up a gear. It is marketed as an adventure bike, but I think it's going to be a hell of a road bike. It's going to be a lot of fun on roads like these. As you might know, this bike is really a derivative of the 390 Duke, and yeah, this bike handles fast road work really well. It feels quite grown up. It doesn't feel like a toy, and it doesn't feel like a learner bike. And you've got really good brakes on the front as well. You've got a bi-brake radial caliper at the front, and it pulls you up really well. That's some serious braking. So for road handling, I am really impressed, more impressed than I thought I would be. I know it was a Duke based bike, KTM Duke based machine, but yeah, it handles the road well. Now I've made it better, not by doing a lot. When I first got the bike, I felt that it was really quite stiffly suspended. Yeah, the ride was fidgety and frankly not very enjoyable. It was okay at faster speeds, but still quite stiff. But at slower speeds, yeah, it felt like there was no give in the suspension. Now, I looked at the back briefly, and I noticed that the rear preload was actually only 1 notch off the minimum. I haven't checked the rebound setting yet, but basically I left the rear shock alone. The forks have independent compression and rebound damping adjusters on the front here. Rebound on the right, compression on the left. Oh, why am I just looking down? Just put the camera down. So they've got about 30 clicks of range, and they were supplied with the clickers in the middle, so 15 clicks either way. So all I've done with both clickers is click them down 4 clicks each towards the minimum from their original position. So we're at about 11 clicks, I guess, from minimum, and that pretty much has transformed the bike. that's made it much more pleasant to ride for me. It feels much more compliant. I wouldn't say plush, but yeah, it's just a lot less busy now while riding. Which takes us to the quick shifter and this bike's equipment level. I'm really impressed with the things that this bike comes with. Well, if you pay. Quick shifter was an extra, about £235, but otherwise this bike came with Bluetooth, comes with navigation, turn-by-turn navigation support if you install the KTM software, and I did have a go at that earlier on for the first time. It was okay, really. I got nothing to complain about, apart from perhaps the default map zoom level was a bit too close, bit zoomed in. You can adjust the zoom level, but I haven't got capacitive gloves, so I've got to do that at a standstill. But yeah, Bluetooth, turn-by-turn navigation, up and down quick shifter, ABS, traction control, both lean sensitive. Now, the quick shifter isn't very good. Seems to get better 4th to 5th, 5th to 6th, but when you use the quick shifter on this bike, especially in the lower gears, there's quite a delay, quite a rev cut in the gear change, so it's not very smooth. Now, bear in mind, I haven't been able to use all the revs yet, so maybe when I'm using more revs, the gear shift will be quicker, or better, or smoother, and I will update you if that performance changes. But yeah, the quick shifter isn't up to much, really. Going down the box though, very good. Got no complaints with going down the box with the auto blipper. So cool. That's some photos taken. First photos of the bike now. This top box. I thought the style of it, when I saw it on the internet, was really cool. This kind of semi-rigid Givi top box, WL901 I think it is. However, what I didn't realise is the way it fastens. I thought all Givi boxes were designed the same way, and that is with a lock there with two buttons, one to take it off the rack and one to open the lid. Not this one. This key, you have to turn it with quite a bit of force to actually unlatch it from the top rack, and this is the locking system. Basically it's a padlock with a number underneath, a combination. Imagine coming to this in the dark where you've spanned the adjusters and then you need to find the right number again. You'll need a light as well. I just didn't realise this is the way it locked, and I don't like it. So I'll either be selling this top box or giving it away. In fact, when it comes to my old BMW R1250, may it rest in peace, or pieces, it's likely to get broken up after the auction, which I'm not party to. I don't know where it's going to go auctioned and when, but yeah, I've got some leftover bits from the R1250, and I suspect I'll start giving them away at some point soon, so stay tuned for that. I just got to work out how YouTube works with raffles or giveaways, because there are some rules you got to follow. So when I got the bike first and picked it up from AMS Tewkesbury, I got it home and then I realised that the handlebars and the handguards were basically too wide to easily get down the side of my house and in the shed at the back. Also, the stock mirrors, actually they perform okay in terms of reflection and not being affected by vibration very much, but they're actually wider than the handlebars. But now you can see how much it sticks out past the end of the handlebar, which is already a bit on the wide side for getting in and out of the back of the house. They didn't have enough range on them to kind of bend them out of the way completely. I actually purchased a pair of what I think are actually knockoff KTM mirrors from the older range of bikes. Small round mirrors with a little bit of a hinge in the stalk. But when I actually got them, it turned out that the reflective glass, well, it must have just been tin foil. The quality of the glass, or the reflection, was absolutely atrocious. The stalks were really bendy as well. In fact, they lasted one ride to J&S Accessories where I promptly bought a new pair of mirrors. Now, these are the ones I got on the bike at the moment, and they look great. I really like the styling of them. When I saw them in the shop, I thought, yeah, they'll suit the bike, and they really do suit the bike in my mind. Unfortunately, the mirrors are completely defeated by the vibration through the bars. As part of a desperate attempt to make the bike easier to get in and out of the back of the house, in the back garden, I actually removed these spacers. I removed the spacer there, the little black disc there I'm pointing to, and on the other side. And that made the handlebars basically about a good 1.5 inches or 30 mil or so narrower, and it made it really easy, relatively speaking, then to get the bike in and out of the back garden. But I wondered if these spacers actually doubled as bar end weights. They didn't weigh much, but maybe it was just enough to sort out some of the vibration. Well, I did about 80 miles or so yesterday, I think, and by the end of that ride both hands were rather numb. Not only that, about 20 minutes after I stopped the bike, the blood started to come back into my hands and I had a serious case of pins and needles in both hands. So the spacers are back on, so that's a shame. I really don't know how to solve the issue of the handlebars being too wide with these hand grips. As far as I can tell, bark busters are just as wide. I thought I'd ordered a pair of bark busters, but it turned out that I hadn't. Somehow forgot to press the buy it now button. I'm kind of glad I didn't. Another financial mistake averted. So I'll move on to what I've fitted to the bike. Not too much so far. I got the Givi rack and that top box. So at the front of the bike where the phone sits, we have, you can't see it at the moment, we've got a sat nav adapter mount from Nice CNC. You'll probably find them on eBay, maybe Amazon as well in the UK. So they make kind of nice shiny little blingy bits for quite a few motorbikes. On top of that, there's a RAM mount, so a 1-inch ball RAM mount basically, and that's what my phone's using through the Ultimate Add-ons case. Now, when I first rode this bike with that case but without the phone in it, I was very concerned about the vibrations coming through on the case. So now, between the 1-inch ball adapter and the sat-nav mount, what I've got is basically a bit of rubber in between the two from an old knee pad from my BMW. Basically I just cut it to shape and fitted it between the two bits of hardware, and there's hardly any vibration now on this phone case. So I got away with that one, I think. I've also fitted, as you can see there, Oxford heated grips. Now, it didn't go that well, bit embarrassing. And what it is down here, down by my thumb, my right side thumb and my starter button, I mounted the grip in such a way that the cable doesn't really foul the button, but it is slightly in the way of the button. I didn't think about that. I was more concerned with clearance for the front brake. But now it's too late to do anything about it. It's on, it's super glued on, it's not going anywhere.
Oh, it's all panic. I'm not pushing. I'm not pushing. This is not good. Not good, not good, not good. Pure chaos.
I also fitted a rear light that was actually on the BMW. It's a Denali B6 LED rear light, so I've managed to fit that to the bottom of the number plate. And I'm really pleased with that because of the top box. The bottom of the top box and the rear light, they're actually quite close together vertically. Although if you were like 100 yards behind me or 100 meters behind me, you could probably see the rear light with no trouble at all. But as I was standing behind the bike, it felt like the rear light was a little bit obscured by the top box and the rack. So I'm pleased that I've got some extra visibility at the back with the B6 light. So I had to attach that to the brake light and tail light wiring on the KTM with some posi-tap connectors. So thankfully someone had done this before me on the internet, and they listed which wires were which. Needed a ground wire, a tail light wire, and a brake light wire. So am I enjoying this bike so far? Hell yes. Like I said a couple of times, I can't wait to get it serviced so I can actually use the full revs. It's pretty light, it's quick. It makes my Kawasaki Versys 300 feels like there's something wrong with it, frankly. The Kawasaki's engine being 73cc smaller, or 74cc smaller, and being a parallel twin rather than a single, feels quite flat and lacking in power compared to this, even though they weigh the same. But I do have one big problem with this bike, and it's something I found and something I knew was coming, and that's turbulence and wind noise at speed. If you see my video where I compared this bike to the G310 GS BMW and my Kawasaki, this bike was the worst on the motorway for wind noise and turbulence for me personally. Well, now I've adjusted the front screen up and down, the main screen on the bike, and I've been through 2 different flip-up screens already. The one that was on the Kawasaki and this one as well, and I cannot find a good solution that keeps the wind off me and is quiet. So at some point in the near future I'll be buying a whole new screen, probably getting disappointed with that, then buying another screen and then probably buying another screen, and then probably buying another screen. Oh, yeah, I haven't told you about a couple of issues I've had on the bike. Basically, on the first day I bought it, when I bought it home. I mentioned the quick shifter. It's not great, this quick shifter. But on the ride home from the shop, I actually had quick shifter error messages on the dash, which I presume then disabled the quick shifter. First time it happened, I was like, oh, this looks serious. But basically I stopped the bike, turned the ignition off, turned it back on again, and the error went away. So that needs to be looked at by the shop. But in the last week or so, it hasn't happened again. Hasn't happened today for sure, and I've used a quick shifter quite a bit on purpose just to see if I can make it upset, but it's been fine. So another thing that's a bit of an issue, and the shop's gonna have to look at, is actually the seat, and more specifically the seat cover. It's bunching up in a couple of places. It's actually gone into a little ridge in a couple of places, kind of well, underneath my butt cheeks and at the beginning of the thighs. There's a couple of little soft bits of material there, and I definitely don't like that. That actually happened, I saw that after the first 14 miles when I got it back home. It's not got any worse, but it still doesn't look nice, so they have to do something about that. I'm not willing to accept that. It looks rubbish. This bike came with Metzeler Tourance tyres, which are the ones that came with my Kawasaki actually, but the ones on the Kawasaki were part worn because the bike was second hand, and they gave the Kawasaki quite a bit of a steering wobble until I changed the tyres. But I'm glad to report on this bike, absolutely no wobble when I take my hands off the handlebars. So with the Kawasaki, it must have been just those tyres must have worn in a bit of a weird way. But overall, I've had a great start with this bike, and even though it's a world away from my BMW 1250R, I'm not missing that bike so much. It's A2 compliant, it's a 400cc or smaller, so you've got to work the gearbox, and I'm going too fast, and it's fun. You're really plugging yourself into the bike and making it work. So when it comes to overtakes of 1 or 2 cars on the back roads, when I've got full access to the revs, it's not going to be a problem on this bike. You're not going to be found wanting, I don't think, unless maybe you were 2 up. You know, had a passenger, quite a bit of weight on the bike, maybe then it'll feel a little bit laboured. So I wanted to do about 100 miles today, and I think I've achieved that. Should be just over 600 miles by the time I get home. Thanks for hanging out with me on this little ride on the KTM. Now you know a little bit more about what I'm thinking about it, and it's mostly good things. So until the next video, folks, take care of yourselves. Ta-ra.